Hey guys, welcome to CoET. In this video, we are going to create a simple pop-up using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so that is once you click the show pop-up button, it's going to show this pop-up, and once you click the X6 button, it's going to display none the pop-up. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to create my project folder at my desktop. You can create yours at any directory, so I'm going to call this folder pop-up. Okay, and next I'm going to add this folder in my text editor. Okay, so in my folder I'm going to create my HTML file because we are going to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so I'm going to save this and name it as popup.html. Okay, and I'm going to create another file, and I will name this one popup.css. This is my style sheet. And lastly, I'm going to create the last file, and I'm going to name this one popup.js, and this is our script. Okay, so in the HTML, I'm going to write the HTML tag, and I just name this as simple pop-up, the title. Okay, now in the body, we're going to have a button, and we just have some text in this button, show pop-up. Okay, and below this button, we're going to have a div, which is actually the pop-up. So let's give it an ID pop-up. This is going to be our pop-up or modal. So let's save and then open this in our browser. Okay, so we have our button here right now. We are still going to modify this. Okay, so let's add some. There are some attributes here. So the first attribute we are going to add is a class. So we call this class show button. Okay, and we are going to modify the button based on this class. And next, we are going to have an on-click event. Okay, and the on-click event we pass the function show, which we are going to implement in our script. Okay, so after that, let's link our CSS file and our JavaScript file with the HTML. So our CSS file is popup.css, so we're just going to write the name of the file in the href attribute because all of the files are in the same directory. The CSS file and the HTML file are in the same directory, so we just need to provide the name of the file only. Okay, and for the script, in the source attribute, we are going to provide the name of the script only, the name of our JavaScript file, popup.js, because the JavaScript file and the HTML file are in the same directory. Okay, so let's modify our button. So firstly, let's set the body, our HTML body margin to 0, the padding to 0. Okay, and for our button dot show button class, in this we want to set the background to color blue. Okay, the background color to blue, and then the text color to white. Border none, we want to remove the border. The padding 10px, and the size, the font size, let's give it 16px, and let's set border radius. Okay, and this is going to be 7 pixels. Next, the margin auto display block. Then top, let's bring it down a bit, so the top 50px, and lastly we set the position to relative. Okay, so let's refresh and see what we have. Okay, so we have our button like this. Okay, so now let's modify our pop-up. Okay, so we have the div. In the div we want to have header section in our pop-up, so we're going to have a div again within, and set the class header. Okay, and in this div we're going to have h5 element, and then in between we have some text header. So this is going to be the header of our modal. And then in the header we want to have a button to L6 to close the modal, okay, or the pop-up. So here we're just going to pass X. Okay, and this button is going to have an on-click event, and in the on-click event we're going to have a function called hard, okay, which we'll implement in our JavaScript. Okay, so now we have written the HTML code for the header section of our pop-up. Let's have another div for the body section. So we're going to give this a class called pop-up body. Okay, and we can just pass one paragraph like this is the pop-up body. All right, something like this. Now let's modify the pop-up. So we say hashtag pop-up because we gave the pop-up div an ID called pop-up. Okay, so we're going to modify it based on that. So we set the weight 40%, the background to white, margin auto, and let's set some box shadow effect to this. So we're gonna have 0, 0, 20 px 0, and let's add a color like gray. Okay, and then let's display block for now because we want to see how it will be. Later we'll display none. Position relative border radius, let our border radius of 5 pixels, then set the mini height to 257px. Okay, let's refresh now. Okay, so we have something like this. So we still need to modify, okay, the header in the body section. So at the header section we give it a class header. Okay, so in the CSS we're just going to call dot header, and then this we are going to set the display property to flex because we have two elements in there, so we can align them properly and set the padding 9 pixel, margin 0, color, okay, let's give it color like, okay, almost black, gray something. Justify content space between, we have two elements in there, so let's add some space between them. Okay, and then the border button, we want to add a border button, set the weight of the border to 1px, it's going to be solid, and let's give it a color of gray, light gray. Okay, let's save and refresh to see the effect. Okay, so we have something like this, so we still need a little modification. Okay, so the header button, color white, this is the access button, border none, let's remove the border, and let's give it the background color red. Cursor pointer, so the cursor is going to change the pointer whenever we hover on the access button. Let's set the height to 25px and the weight to 25px as well, and then the weight, let's make the weight for the font weight. Okay, now let's modify the header text, header h5, so this margin 0, font size, let's increase it a bit to 20 pixel. Okay, and lastly the pop-up body, we just going to set a padding only to 9 pixel. So let's refresh. Okay, so we have something like this. I think it's nice. Okay, so and now let's display none. So initially we display block, so we are going to display none because we only want this pop-up to be displayed only when we click the button. So let's refresh now, it is displayed now. So we need to implement our function so that whenever we click this button, then it's going to show the pop-up. Okay, so by default the pop-up is not going to display, and it will only display except this button is being clicked. Okay, so to achieve that, let's go into our script, and then here we are going to implement our function. So the first function we're going to deal with is the show function. So whenever we click the button with the text show pop-up, then it's going to call this show function. Now what is this show function going to do? So let's have our function. Now we have declared our function show. So whenever we call this function, let's display something. So let's get document or get element by ID. Now we want to get an element. So whenever we click the show pop-up button, then let's get the pop-up. Okay, and the idea of the pop-up is it's just pop up. So we get it, and then we are going to get that element by its ID, which is pop up. All right, and then we change the display property. So to do that, let's start dot the property, which is display, equal the value. So we want to change the display value to block. Initially it is set to none, so we're just going to change it to block. Okay, so what's going to happen whenever we click the button show pop-up, is going to call this function, and in this function we are going to get the pop-up div and display block. Okay, because initially it is display none. All right, so let's save and then refresh and see the effect. So if we click, okay, now it has been pop up. Okay, so let's work on the functionality to display it to exit. Okay, display none. So that's going to happen if we click the assist button. Okay, now in our HTML code, at the display button on the on-click event, we are calling a function hard. Okay, so now let's implement this function into our script. All right, so we have a function hard, in this one we are just going to get the document by ID, which is pop-up, because we want to hide the pop-up, and just change the style of the pop-up, the display property of the pop-up back to none. Yeah, very simple. Okay, so whenever the pop-up is being displayed and then we click the exit button, we are going to call the hide function, and the hide function is going to get the pop-up by its ID and display it none, and set the display property to none. All right, so let's save and refresh to see the effect. Okay, so now we are going to click our button, we have the pop-up showing up, and once we click this, okay, then it displays none. All right, okay guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching this video. Kindly like, share and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.